Aunty Donna's Big Old House of Fun is a new Netflix comedy sketch series. I'm Matt Noble here from Gold Derby, joined by two of the trio, Mark and Zachary. Unfortunately, Bro's not feeling too well today. And what I wanted to ask you guys before we got started was, what I want to ask you guys to start is, if someone has never seen Aunty Donna's Big Old House of Fun, Mark, how would you describe it to them?
Upsettingly silly. It really is probably the silliest thing we've ever made, and that really is the core of the show. Is we just wanted to make something that was so dumb and at its core just funny and irreverent, and hopefully we've done that. And I don't know if that's a good pitch, but it's like, do you want to see something that's not going to make you really think, but you're going to have a lot of fun? Then this is probably the show for you. But if you enjoy, I don't know, academia, this may not be the one for you.
Well, Mark, I enjoy academia, and I also enjoy the show I'm in. So
well, look at us transcending. Look at us just busting through all of our goals. Is that a fair answer?
Zach, does it appeal? How does the show appeal to your academic sentiments?
Look, it doesn't appeal to my academic sentiments. It appeals to when your brain is tired. That's what it appeals to. We're just a heightened absurd sketch show. It's sort of I think our lineage is Monty Python and just all the absurd, crazy stuff. But I would say what we are is the counter programming to that sort of thing. You know, like if you've had a really tough day, if you've had a really if you've had to think a lot, or if you're stressed about the world, we're trying to be something that's kind of the opposite of that.
Yeah, and we're also just very big fans of sketch in that form. So hopefully what we've done and what we try to create is, if you're familiar with the format, a couple of left turns and a couple of form breaky things that keep it a bit spicy, if that is your cup of tea. You know what I'm saying?
Mm. And I guess what was for you guys the most sort of important thing that you wanted as your show to differentiate itself from other sketch shows? How did you turn sort of the form on its head the most, or distinguish yourself the most, Zach?
I think that's a great question. It's one of those things where we really wanted to. I think we've thought about it a lot. We've been doing sketch together as an ensemble for nearly 10 years. So when we got to this show, we'd done 2 pilots. We'd done a lot of online stuff. We'd been touring. We've created 5 or 6 live shows that we've toured. We've put a lot of thought into structure and into all of those things. And I think what differentiates us is just how we've come together and what we do. But a big part of it is a sandbox approach. So a lot of the sketch that we do is set in one location, and it's a limited amount of characters. Most sketch, the whole idea is you're jumping around lots of different places, whereas most of the sketch that we do is set in one place, and it's a group of characters interacting within that one place. As well as that, we try to tie the sketches together in kind of a gut way, if that makes sense. So we're doing something that feels like a plot in every way but intellectual, something that flows like a plot, something that gives you the feeling of a structured sitcom, but the weirdest structured sitcom you've ever seen in your life.
And that's interesting, Mark, because in one sense, the comedy of the show almost has no limits to where you're going, but at the same time, you have built those limits in for the show in terms of location and cast and theme. How do you sort of balance sort of the limits and no limits of the show?
With budget. To be frank. No, that's but that genuinely coming from a place where we started on YouTube when we had no money, the idea or had very limited budgets, the idea of creating sketch in a sandbox originally came from the fact that, well, we've only got a weekend. We only have $1,000 of money that we've put in ourselves to make this thing. I'm referring to our very first bunch of videos that we
Netflix
made.
gave us more than $1,000.
A little more, not much more. No, I'm just joking. And so we were like, well, what can we do? Like physically, what can we do? And like, we can probably only shoot something that's shot in a single room, right? Or a single location. And one of our biggest sort of breakout series was a YouTube series called Aunty, Donna 1999, which was the first time we were ever given like a very decent amount of money to make something, and so that we could stretch it. So rather than make 4 episodes, rather than make 4 sketches that all had different locations, it's like, well, we could possibly make 10 if we just did it all in like one office and then just, you know, milk and mine that single location to its absolute bare bones, which we did. So that it sort of comes from that. And we found that we actually love that challenge. And it's actually really exciting to put yourself in that box, because you come up with ideas that if you didn't, you wouldn't come up with, you know?
Yeah, I'll even jump on that and say, like, it's interesting because we, like Mark said, initially it was a budgetary constraint, but what we found is when you restrict yourself in the writing, you actually free yourself in the shoot. We've done we did a pilot years ago where we were like, finally, we have the money to go to lots of different locations. We can shoot wherever we want. And we found that most of the series, most of the shoot, we were in cars, we were in transit, we were setting up lights, we were sitting around. And then we thought, well, actually this, even though we've got more money, it feels like when we're in front of the camera, we're more stressed, we have less time. So I think we realized pretty early on that actually that was a creative benefit. It's where you want, it's a question of where you want the play to be. Do you want it to be in the writer's room or do you want it to be on set? And when you restrict things to one location, you create much more opportunity for play on set, which I think no matter how much of a budget we get, we're always trying to create that limitation for ourselves.
And Mark spoke about how in the sandbox, you really need to get the most you can out of the limitations that you built for yourself. What scene in Aunty Donna's Big Old House of Fun, Zach, do you feel like you got the most milk for the least squeeze?
That's a great question.
I use that term every day in my life as well.
Yeah, but usually you're referring to milk, Mark.
I'm literally referring to the cows and the milk.
There's no metaphor there.
No, that's why I use that phrase every day, not that metaphor.
It could be morning.
It's a great question. Morning Brown is funny. I think, I think the episode, rather than the sketch, the episode where we stretched ourselves the most, I would say, is episode 5, the nighttime episode. And that, just because we were going from different genres, like there were different reference points, there were different characters, we actually transformed, it's all set in a house, but we transformed the house into a bar in one sketch, and then for the rest of the episode, the sketches were set in a bar. So I think in terms of stretching the sandbox and using that sandbox to push into different places, I'd definitely say the entirety of episode 5. Like, we go to so many different places and so many different genres and worlds and concepts, but we never leave the house.
Yeah. Mark, the show, really, it's funny, it's really the funny drives the show. Yeah,
absolutely.
And I just wonder, at what point do you know a scene is funny enough, you've squeezed as many jokes in it as you can? Because it often, if I can use another metaphor watching the show, it does feel like a bit of a shark of comedy where you want to keep on moving, and if you stop, the show dies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, truth be told, you don't ever really know, because when you spend that long in an edit, by the end of it, you're like, this is the most unfunny thing we have ever done in our lives. Like you do get to a point where you have worked so hard to make it funny that you lose any sense of whether it's funny anymore. And then it's just like, I need this to get out into the world so that then people can just tell me, no, it's not, or yes, congratulations, it is. So it's very cool to hear you say that, because it really is like our sort of motto at Aunty Donna has always been whatever's funniest. But we have lots of different ways of approaching it. In terms of the way that we write it, everything is like very collaborative. Most of it is written through improv, and us just like... It's not written with one person like going away, writing a sketch and presenting it to the rest of the group. We pitch an idea, we constantly improv around that idea. We do a loose draft of it, we improvise around that. And that's, you know, sort of how we get a script. And some sketches we have less of a script for than others, because the plan is to play and improvise more on the day. When we're shooting it, we've come up with this way to try and milk as much as we can out of everything, where we do at least three takes of everything. We do one with exactly what we've written. We do one where we play with what we've written. And then we do a third take that's completely improvised, right? And we say and do whatever we want. And then usually the final version is a mix of all three of those takes, because you never know when you're going to need something. You know, sometimes the line that we've written is the funniest, but sometimes on a certain day we're feeling it and we go completely off script, and it's like that little moment was great. And so, you know, the edit is a very long, very arduous process for us to take all the stuff we've done beforehand and make sure that we're milking the right milks. We're squeezing the right milks out of the right milks. A lot of milk talk here.
Like with comedy too, especially like a comedy where you've got three people contained, maybe a couple other guest stars and whatever in the mix. Like, it's, my view is you've got to be making each other look good and supporting each other well. Zach, how does the collaboration work, and how do you, when you're in those moments where you're improving, look to be building each other up?
Well, we've performed live for as long as we've filmed what we do. We started at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, but we've performed at the Edinburgh Fringe, we've performed at Montreal. Like, we've been touring and performing live. In terms of hours we've put into this, it's mostly been live, you know? And I think you develop an instinct for the other performers. You develop an instinct for also what an audience would respond to. You know, when we're filming for a period of time, or when we've done a lot of film stuff, we like to just get back in front of an audience for periods, just to kind of fill the tank again on how the rhythms of comedy works and when an audience laughs. So I think it's a lot of it is instinct. You know, I genuinely know 9 times out of 10 what joke one of the other guys is going to make. Like, we know each other pretty thoroughly. And then the beauty as well of film is you can kind of fail. I think that's the thing that people don't realize, is that particularly with the process we've developed, you can try a thing, it can be terrible, and no one ever has to see that. Like, so there's a lot of that as well. There's a lot of trial and error in our process.
Do you want to add anything, Mark?
Not really. It was a very succinct, very clear answer. It's just the only thing that comes to my mind is like moments in the show. Like, there's a bit in episode 3, I think it is, where there's a little squeaky door bit where we go, oh, it's a creaky door, and we open it up, and Broden goes, creak. And we were like, can we make sure that we have Broden on set for that bit, just in case anything else comes up, right? And so it was just supposed to be that one joke, but then on that third take, I just started throwing stuff, like just started grabbing things and, you know, basically throwing pitches to Broden. And then like, because we've been working together for so long, he's just knocking them out of the park every time. So much so that then when we gave it to an editor, and during that time as well, like while we're doing that kind of sketch, Zach's not in that sketch, but he's there watching and throwing in ideas as well. Like, often Zach will be like, oh, pick up that and ask him to say that. Like, you know, we do that for each other. Even when we're not on camera, we're always there kind of like watching and wanting to support and help the comedy of every scene, you know. That really helps. It's a really cool environment to be working in that sense.
The other thing I'll just add to that as well is the way we shoot also means that there's a lightness on set. There's a sense of play that then feeds into when we're doing the scripted stuff as well. So there's a lot of sketches in the show that I think people assume were improvised, assume were heavily kind of playful on sketch, but actually they're 5 years old. We've done them a million times live and they're word for word exactly how you'd see we do it every time. But because there's improvisation happening around it, in takes before it, in takes after it, it creates that sort of sense of improv, I guess.
Yeah. Like as guys who, you know, started with making videos in Australia on YouTube and doing the International Melbourne Comedy Festival and all those sorts of things, what's it like to now be making a show for the States that is also sort of targeted at the States market, particularly, you know, with producers and guest stars of the likes of Egg Helms?
We were very excited to work with Egg, you know, and I've been a fan of his for years. So the opportunity to work with him was very, very exciting. Look, I think the thing that was really exciting and really wonderful was we always thought, well, we never thought we'd make anything in the US. We went there and pitched because it was a fun thing to do. Because if you tell people you're going to pitch, then you get to spend a few days in LA and then you can reach out to a friend of a friend who's a magician and you can go to the Magic Castle. Like, that's really why we were...
Which we did many times.
Many times, you know. That was really what we were doing. You know, we weren't pitching because we actually thought we'd ever get a show there. And then I think we thought if we ever did get a show there, it would be sort of it would be us, maybe the three performers, and we would have to fight to get some of the behind the scenes people that make our YouTube stuff, our director and our musician, maybe to get them in some sort of way. We were really lucky in that the Egg and his whole team, that his production company and Netflix were like, no, we want the whole team. We want the director, we want the musician, we want all the writers, we want you all to come over here and make what you do to our scale and you know, with our kind of, with that LA kind of sheen, I guess.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. That was, I think, it didn't feel that different. It didn't feel that different. Once the camera was rolling, we were standing in a set, which we'd never done before. We weren't standing in like a friend's house in Fitzroy. They made a house out of nothing. But other than that, once the camera was rolling, it was the same. Sorry, Mark, you go.
No, I was just saying, like, not only did they want us, they only wanted just us. Like, the trust that they gave us was, for lack of a better word, maybe misguided. That's just a little joke. It was incredible. Like they, you know, they didn't hire us a head writer, and they didn't, you know, need like a directing mentor for Max. Like, it was the biggest project we'd ever worked on, and they were like, you've done enough to show that you can absolutely pull this off. And that, more than anything, was so exciting and just so cool to be told, not only are you going to get a TV show, but it's going to be yours. It's going to be your voice. Netflix were great to work with all through the writing and the edit process. They wanted it to be ours, and the end result, I think, is a voice that is unequivocally Aunty Donna, which I'm so proud of and just so happy about.
And I think that, for me, that trust is evident in the fact that just Aussie vernacular is used and not being sort of adapted to make it more accessible for US audiences. There's a real authenticity and sort of going, it's like these words like footy and beef pies and just stuff like that I don't often hear in American shows. Final question, guys, and it's for each of you. If you were a flavor of milk, which flavor would you be? We'll start with Mark, then go to Zach.
Oh, that's a great question. I like egg flip. I don't know if anyone out there is familiar with the egg flip, but Big M do it. I can't even tell you what that tastes like. It doesn't taste like egg, and flip is not something I'm aware of that has a taste. But you put those two things together, and Big M do an egg flip, and I like egg flip.
There you go. No idea.
But that's just what I like. I don't know if that means that's what I'd be, but I suppose I'm going to let that be my answer.
Okay, Zach.
That's a great question, and it's the hard-hitting questions here.
Yeah, I didn't realize this was a hit piece.
Well, talk Gold Derby, you got to expect the tough questions.
All right.
Oh, I'm feeling a lot of pressure here. I was going to say like a limited run thing as well. I didn't know exactly what it was. But look, I'm probably like just like maybe a Snickers, like a candy bar, chocolate bar collaboration type thing.
That's what you want,
someone walked down the hall of the milk chocolate company to their sister chocolate bar company. They came together and they've done a limited 6-month run of, I'm going to say, Snickers chocolate milk. That's what I'm going to go with, Snickers.
Things that are weird and not for everyone, but if you like them, chances are you love them.
That's it. Oh, well, I should have gone for that. Yeah, that's really good. Like a spicy chocolate.
Ooh.
Oak cinnamon donut milk or something like that.
Yeah. Give me that.
What you're talking about, Matt.
Give me something that's going to mess me up.
Yeah. Any ideas on who Broden would be if Broden was in milk?
Strawberry.
He'd be a strawberry milk.
Mainstream
Or
crowd
iced
pleaser.
coffee.
Or an iced coffee.
In Farmers Union iced coffee. You talk about Australian references. There's a South Australian, one state of Australia reference. I think Broden would be a Farmers Union iced coffee.
Yeah,
there you
nice
go.
one.
The exclusive, a Gold Derby. Well, Zach and Mark, thanks so much for talking to us. All the best of luck with the Emmy Awards. People can make their Emmy Award predictions at goldderby.com and watch other interviews with other TV superstars. Thanks, guys.
You're a legend. Thanks, Matt.
No worries. That was great to chat. All the best.